Her fingers pinched my license like it was something filthy. She gave me a smirk, slid it across the counter, then in one sharp motion tore it straight down the middle. Plastic and paper cracked together, a sound so small and yet it tore through me like thunder. I felt my stomach twist. "Excuse me." My voice came out hoarse. "That was my driver's license. You destroyed state property." Melissa leaned back in her chair, chewing her gum like I was an irritation in her shift. "We don't accept fake IDs here." Fake. The word rang inside me like a hammer blow. Customers behind me muttered. One man whispered, "Maybe he's using someone else's card." Another woman coughed into her sleeve but said nothing. Silence wrapped around me like a noose. I swallowed down the burn in my throat. Fake? I've been driving with that license for 15 years. You shredded it without even scanning the barcode. She shrugged. "Sir, calm down." The way she said "sir" made me want to tear the word right out of her mouth. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you thought it was valid. I pressed both palms onto the counter. My hands trembled. "I run a company. I employ 200 people. You think I walked in here with a fake ID?" Her eyes flickered, then narrowed. "I think you walked in here expecting special treatment." The air around me turned heavy. I heard the shuffle of feet, the uncomfortable coughs, the whispers no one dared make loud enough to challenge her. Not one person spoke up. I forced myself to breathe, slow and steady, even as heat boiled behind my eyes. "Call your manager," I snapped. "Now!" She rolled her eyes like a teenager told to do chores, then tapped her button. A tall man with graying hair came out from the glass office. His badge read Hughes, branch manager. He walked over with a rehearsed smile. "What seems to be the problem here?" "She's destroyed my ID," I said, my chest heaving. "And now she's accusing me of fraud in front of your entire lobby." Melissa crossed her arms, chin lifted like she'd already won. "He presented a suspicious card. I acted to protect the bank." "Suspicious?" I barked out a laugh, hollow and raw. "You didn't even look twice before ripping it up. You wanted to humiliate me." Hughes raised a hand. "Sir, shouting won't help." The word "sir" again. Cold, patronizing. I leaned closer across the counter, my voice shaking but low. "If a white man in a suit walked in here, would you shred his license? Would you stand here telling him to calm down?" Melissa shifted in her chair. Hughes avoided my eyes. The silence of the lobby thickened. I turned, scanning the room, locking eyes with anyone who dared meet mine. A middle-aged man looked at the floor. A young woman clutched her purse tighter. Not a single voice rose for me. My throat felt raw, but I forced the words out. "All of you saw what happened, and you'll all walk out of here and pretend you didn't, because it's easier to protect her comfort than my dignity." My voice cracked, but I let it. I wanted them to hear the break. Hughes stepped forward, lowering his tone like I was dangerous prey. "Sir, I'm asking you to leave before we call security." I stared at him, at her, at the rows of silent faces, watching me burn alone. My chest pounded. My hands clenched until my nails bit into my skin. A calm came over me then, the kind of calm that only grows in the ashes of humiliation. I turned back to Melissa, meeting her eyes with every ounce of weight my life had built. "You just made a mistake you'll remember longer than my name. You think this ends with me leaving quietly?" "You're wrong." Her smirk faltered, only for a second. I stepped back, my voice steady now. "That was my license, but you didn't just tear plastic. You tore through years of my life, and you think you can hide it under silence. Watch what silence costs you." The lobby was still. The weight of their cowardice pressed in, but for the first time, I felt lighter. I walked out of the branch with my head high, the sting still burning, the humiliation still raw. But deep down, something shifted. Their comfort ended here. My dignity began now. I slammed my fist against the polished mahogany table. The sound echoed off the glass walls, sharper. Then I meant, but I didn't care. My team sat frozen, eyes darting between one another. Reggie leaned forward, his voice raw with fury. You own 3 hotels, 2 tech firms, and she saw you as a con man? His hands trembled as he pointed at me, not in blame, but disbelief. Worse, I muttered, my throat burning. She saw me as nothing. A silence hung heavy over the room. Chairs creaked. I felt the weight of their stares pressing down. I want that branch shut down, Reggie snapped, slamming his folder shut. Today, we file suit, we hit them with every lawyer we've got, and we don't stop until she's cleaning toilets for a living. I stared at him, my chest heaving. His rage mirrored my own, but his words burned differently. Marla, my operations chief, finally spoke, her tone low and cautious. We can't escalate like that. Jordan, think about the shareholders. Think about the headlines. CEO lashes, out after ID dispute. They'll twist it against you. I turned on her, my voice sharp. Headlines? They shredded my license in front of strangers and called me a fraud. You're worried about headlines? Her eyes dropped. The silence stabbed deeper than her words. Reggie cut in again, his voice booming. This isn't about headlines, Marla. It's about dignity. You don't humiliate a black man in public and walk away untouched. Not this black man. The words hit me hard, stirring something inside. I clenched my fists under the table, nails, biting into my palms. Harold, my legal counsel, cleared his throat. We could issue a formal complaint. Quietly. Let the regulators handle it. His tone wavered, thin like paper in fire. Quietly? I barked out a laugh, hollow. That's how they win. Quiet complaints, quiet settlements, quiet humiliation. My voice cracked, but I forced it louder. I've been quiet my whole life. I'm done being quiet. Reggie leaned closer, his face inches from mine. Then we go loud. Lawsuit, press. We tear the mask off. Marla shook her head, her voice trembling. Loud will cost us contracts, Jordan. Clients will whisper. Banks will circle. Do you want your empire dragged through the mud because of one teller? One teller? My voice dropped, low, dangerous. She wasn't just a teller. She was every face that's looked at me and thought I didn't belong. She was every silence in every room that watched and let it happen. The table went still. My words filled the space, heavy and unrelenting. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. My chest rose and fell, breath shallow, each inhale scraped with fire. Reggie's voice softened, but it carried steel. Jordan, you've built too much to swallow this. Don't let them bury it. Don't let them bury you. I shut my eyes. For a flash, I saw her tearing my license, the crowd's silence, the smirk that cut deeper than the rip. My hands shook under the table, but I didn't hide them. Let them see. I opened my eyes, voice low but firm. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who watched me burn and said nothing. It's about the cost of silence. Marla whispered, almost pleading. Then choose carefully, because once we light this fire, there's no putting it out. Her words lingered, like smoke clinging to fabric. She was right. There would be no return. I rose from my chair, my voice steadier than my legs. Then let the fire burn. I've carried ashes long enough. The room went quiet again. But this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was fear. Or maybe awe. I couldn't tell. I stared at their faces, my team, my people, and yet I saw hesitation, doubt, the same silence I'd felt in the bank lobby. That silence stung worse than the teller's smirk. I walked to the glass wall, looking out at the city lights, blinking against the night. My reflection stared back at me, fractured by the glare. This isn't about shutting down one branch, I murmured. My voice carried across the room. It's about shutting down every silence that kept her comfortable while I stood stripped of my dignity. No one answered. The weight of their silence pressed on my chest again. I turned back, jaw tight. If you won't fight with me, then I'll fight alone. Reggie stood. You won't be alone. Not this time. Marla closed her eyes, whispering, God help us all. The cliff edge loomed in front of me, but my feet were already moving toward it. I shouldn't have gone back to my condo that night, but I did. The rage had nowhere to go, so I drove aimlessly, circling blocks, until I ended up outside the very branch that had shredded my license. Through the glass, I could still see her. Face in my memory, Melissa, with that smirk, as if she had power over who I was allowed to be. Her voice wouldn't leave me. Fake, suspicious, calm down. I imagined what she might be saying now, in the safety of her home, where no one could confront her. The thought clawed at me until I pulled out my phone, hit record, and whispered into the dark car. Tonight, she tells her version. Tomorrow, I tell mine. I couldn't hear her words firsthand, but I felt them, almost like echoes rattling in my chest. You should have seen him, she bragged, laughter sharp in my mind. Came in flashing some card like he was somebody important. Thought he could fool me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles burning. Then I pictured another voice, lower, hesitant, her boyfriend. What proof did you have? Silence, then a dismissive scoff. I didn't need proof. Look at him. The words made. My stomach not. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. I knew that tone. I'd heard it in classrooms, in boardrooms, at airport gates. Look at him. Those 3 words had followed me my whole life. His voice rose in my head again, strained this time. That's the problem. You didn't see him. You saw what you wanted. I felt my throat tighten. For once, someone in her world had said it out loud, but I imagined her snapping back, defensive, rattling off excuses. Don't make me the bad guy here. I was protecting the bank. Protecting. The word stung like acid. Protecting who? From what? I muttered into the empty car, my voice trembling. From me. From my skin. From the idea of me having more than she thinks I deserve. I pictured him again, pressing her, refusing to let it go. You ruined a man in public. If you're so sure, why are your hands shaking? I looked at my own trembling, hands on the steering wheel. The irony didn't escape me. Her silence filled my ears, thick and guilty. For the first time, I wondered if she'd felt even an ounce of shame when the lobby went quiet and I walked out. I whispered to myself, shame doesn't give me back my license. It doesn't erase the whispers. It doesn't lift the weight of their silence off my chest. I could almost hear her voice breaking under his challenge. I didn't think, and him, cutting her off. Exactly. You didn't think. You judged. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone in my hand, imagining recording that very exchange. How different the world would look if her excuses were played against his truth. The steering wheel felt hot under my palms. My breath came slow, ragged. I murmured, seeds of guilt don't erase wounds. But maybe, just maybe, they grow into cracks. Cracks that let light in. For a moment, I let myself breathe, picturing her staring at the floor, hearing her own prejudice spoken back at her, unable to hide from it. That image gave me something I hadn't felt since I walked out of. That branch. Not peace, not justice. Resolve. I sat up, wiping sweat from my brow, and pressed the record button again. Tomorrow, I don't just fight for myself. Tomorrow, I make the world hear what she tried to bury in silence. My reflection in the windshield looked back at me, dark and fractured by streetlights. But behind the fractures, I saw steel. The night was quiet, but inside me, a storm prepared to break. When I pushed open the glass doors again, the air felt different. My pulse thudded against my ribs, but I walked steady, flanked by two lawyers in sharp suits. Every eye in the lobby turned toward me. Whispers rippled through the room, and I caught the shift in tone. Recognition, curiosity, unease. Melissa froze behind her counter. Her jaw tightened, gum no longer chewing. She looked at me like a ghost had returned. I stepped forward, each footfall deliberate, my voice calm but heavy. I'm back for what you destroyed. Her eyes darted to the office door. Seconds later, Hughes emerged, adjusting his tie, plastering that same rehearsed smile across his face. "Mr. Cole," he greeted, too quickly. "Let's handle this professionally." I planted my hand on the counter, leaning in so my voice carried across the lobby. "Professionally? You call shredding my license professional?" He flinched, eyes flicking to the lawyers beside me. "This isn't the place for—" "This is exactly the place." My words cut through the hum of the lobby. "Right here, in front of the people who watched her humiliate me and chose silence." Gasps stirred, a few heads bowed, others leaned in closer. I turned sharply toward Hughes, locking eyes with him. "Tell me, Manager Hughes, if a white CEO walked in here, would you shred his ID?" He stiffened. "This isn't about race." My chest burned. I let the fire ride up my throat. "Everything in this country is about race when it comes to people like me. You know it, she knows it, and they—" I swept my hand across the room. "They feel it, but pretend they don't." Melissa snapped, her voice shrill. "I did my job. I stopped a fraud." I slammed my palm down, the sound cracking across marble. "You stopped nothing. You saw my skin, and that was enough to rip through my identity like it was trash." A murmur rose from the crowd. A young man whispered, not quiet enough. "She really did tear it up without even scanning." Melissa's face reddened. She hissed, "Don't twist this." I leaned closer, my voice a low growl. "You twisted it. The second you decided what I was worth. And you made that judgment in front of strangers, knowing they'd stay quiet because silence always protects people like you." Hughes raised his hands, flustered. "Mr. Cole, please, let's take this to my office." I straightened, my chest heaving but my tone measured. "No. You hid behind closed doors when it suited you. Today, you answer here." The lobby was silent except for shallow breaths and the hum of ceiling lights. One of my lawyers stepped forward, his voice clipped. "This bank destroyed official identification without cause, publicly accused my client of fraud, and caused reputational harm. We're documenting every second of this exchange." He raised his phone, recording. Customers shifted, some pulling out their own phones. Screens glowed like quiet witnesses. Melissa muttered, "You can't do this." Her voice cracked, thin, unsteady. I locked eyes with her. "Can't? I've lived my life being told what I can't do. Can't walk into certain rooms. Can't be trusted with my own name. Can't have the dignity that comes with silence. Today I decide what I can." The crowd stirred again, whispers louder now. A woman behind me murmured, "He's right." Hughes's mask finally slipped. His jaw clenched, his smile gone. "Mr. Cole, you're making a spectacle." My voice rose, steady and unshaken. "No, Hughes. You made a spectacle when you let her shred my identity in front of these people. I'm just giving the silence a voice." For a long beat, the lobby hung in stillness. I could hear my own heart hammering. Then, slowly, a few customers nodded, their murmurs growing into words I hadn't heard the first time. Support, small but real. I stepped back, drawing a long breath. My voice dropped, calm, cutting. "You wanted me quiet. You wanted me gone. Instead, I'm still here, and I won't stop until every eye sees what you did." Melissa's lips trembled. Hughes's face paled. The power that had crushed me days ago now shifted inch by inch in my direction. I turned, meeting the gaze of the crowd, daring them to stay silent again. And this time their silence felt different, like the edge of something breaking. The email pinged, glowing across my screen like a wound reopening. We regret the incident, but our staff acted in good faith. I read the line again, slower this time, until the words pressed into me like salt into raw skin. Good faith. That was their shield. That was their excuse. My phone buzzed. Reggie's name lit up. Did you see it? His voice crackled with restrained fury. I saw it. My throat felt dry. They regret the incident, but not the insult. They regret the noise, not the blade. He exhaled hard. They just told the world you imagined it, that her prejudice was faith. The words dug deeper. My chest tightened. Another call cut through before I could answer. Marla! I picked up and her voice came fast, panicked. Jordan, you can't push this further. Please, the statement's out. The press will move on if you let it. Don't stir the pot. Stir the pot? My voice cracked, louder than I meant. She shredded my license in public. That's not a pot. That's my dignity in pieces on a counter. Clients are nervous, she whispered. Investors, too. They want stability. They don't want you turning this into a crusade. I pressed my hand against my temple. A crusade? They want my silence. They always do. The silence that makes their world comfortable. Her hesitation filled the line. Sometimes silence keeps doors open. I bit back the bitterness rising in my throat. And sometimes silence keeps chains locked. She didn't reply. The line went cold, then cut. The room spun with echoes. Good faith stability don't stir the pot. Another buzz. This time, Harold, my counsel. Jordan, listen, he muttered, cautious. Headquarters wants to settle quietly. They'll offer compensation, maybe an internal memo about training. It's the best we can hope for. The best you can hope for, I snapped. My hand shook, the phone slick with sweat. But me, I'm supposed to accept their hush money as proof of progress? Think carefully, he warned. If you fight, they'll dig into everything. Your past, your contracts, your company. They'll make this about you, not them. I laughed, bitterly, hollow. It's always about me, my tone, my anger, my body in their lobby. Never about her smirk when she tore through my name. Silence on his end. A silence that told me he had no answer. I whispered almost to myself. Good faith is the currency of oppressors. It buys their innocence while selling my dignity. My words rang in my ears, a truth I could no longer swallow. I hung up, staring at the statement again. Corporate language, polished and precise, dripping with emptiness. Regret without responsibility. My reflection glared back at me from the black screen as the email closed. My jaw clenched. My pulse thundered. Another vibration. A colleague this. Time. A CEO of a partner firm. His tone was low, almost apologetic. Jordan, I saw the news. Just don't let this define you. Bigger battles ahead, brother. Let it go. Let it go? My voice shook with disbelief. You want me to let go of being stripped bare in public while they write my humiliation off as an unfortunate event? I want you to win the long game, he said softly. I'm tired of long games, I whispered, the weight in my chest pressing heavier. Long games mean waiting for dignity, waiting for recognition, waiting for humanity. He sighed, defeated. Then you'll be alone in this. The line cut, alone. The word lingered, bitter but familiar. I'd carried it my whole life. I stood, pacing the room, my fists clenching and unclenching. The silence of colleagues, the cowardice of corporations, the careful words wrapped in poison. every piece pressed against me until it became unbearable. But beneath the weight, something else grew, a steadiness, a resolve. I whispered into the still air, "If their silence is strategy, mine will be a storm." The words calmed me. I turned back to the screen one last time, reading their statement again, and for the first time I didn't feel small beneath it. I felt ready to tear it apart. The video hit the internet before I was ready. Grainy phone footage, but clear enough. The moment her fingers ripped through my license, the smirk, the crowd's silence. My phone lit up like fire. Messages, calls, notifications, a storm of voices pouring into my world. Reggie's voice blasted, through first. "Jordan, it's everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Your humiliation is trending." I swallowed the acid rising in my throat. My humiliation or their prejudice? Both, he muttered. And people are choosing sides. I pulled the phone away, scrolling through the feed. He should have known better than to act like a CEO. My chest tightened. I whispered almost to myself, "They can't imagine me in the suit, only in chains." Reggie's voice softened. "And others are fighting back." "Listen," another clip played, someone's caption over the video. "A man has his ID destroyed for existing while black." Thousands of comments below, people debating my dignity like it was a ballot. A new message flashed from an unknown number. I opened it. "Fraud. Stop playing victim." My hand trembled. Another ping. "We saw you. We believe you. Stay strong." The contrast cut deep. Hate and hope, side by side, both clawing at me. Reggie's voice cracked. "Jordan, this isn't just a video anymore. It's a battlefield." I closed my eyes. The voices from the bank lobby came back. Those whispers. Maybe it's fake. Maybe he's lying. Now amplified, multiplied, recorded forever. Marla called next, her voice urgent. "Jordan, you need to issue a statement. Control the narrative. Right now you're a headline, not a person," I snapped back. I wasn't a person to them in that lobby. I was suspicion with skin on. Now the world gets to see it. Her breath hitched. But the internet doesn't heal. It devours. Today, it's sympathy. Tomorrow they'll rip you apart. I clenched my fist, nails biting into my palm. Better to be devoured for truth than to choke in silence. She sighed, defeated. Then brace yourself. They'll dig through everything you've ever done. The call cut, leaving me with the buzz of endless notifications. I scrolled again. Each comment, another blow, another reminder. This is what happens when they get too bold. Fire her immediately. CEOs don't get treated like that. Black CEOs do. I set the phone down, breathing shallow. The screen kept glowing, comments flooding in, strangers dissecting me like I was a case file, not flesh and blood. Reggie's voice came back, calm but fierce. "Jordan, listen to me. You've carried worse on your back and still built empires. This is just another storm. Stand tall." I whispered, more to myself than to him. "Storms don't scare me. It's the silence before them that suffocates." He didn't answer, but I could feel his nod through the line. The pings didn't stop. The world had decided I was no longer invisible. But being visible meant being hunted, too. I pressed my palm against my chest, steadying my breath. They wanted me erased in silence. Now they'll hear every word. For the first time, the noise didn't crush me. It fueled me. The storm outside wasn't mine to fear. It was theirs to face. The wood-paneled room felt heavier than stone, but my resolve kept me upright. My palms were damp, resting on the table before me. I heard my pulse more than I heard the shuffle of papers. The chairperson cleared her throat. "We are here to examine the events at the branch." A lawyer across the table leaned toward Melissa. His tone was clipped, unforgiving. "You tore up an official ID without verifying? Why?" Melissa's voice cracked. "Because he didn't look." Her words trailed off, her gaze dropping to the table. The silence in the room pressed harder than any shout. The lawyer pounced. Didn't look what? Didn't look rich enough, educated enough, didn't look white enough? Her lips parted, but no words came. I clenched my fists under the table, heat crawling up my throat. I forced myself to speak, my voice low but steady. Say it, Melissa. For once, don't hide behind silence. Say what you saw when you looked at me. Her eyes flicked to me, trembling. I thought it was fake. The lawyer leaned forward. Based on what evidence? She swallowed, her hands twisting in her lap. I just didn't feel right. Didn't feel right, I repeated, my voice sharp. My identity in your hands didn't feel right. My name didn't feel right. The lawyer nodded toward me. Mr. Cole, would you describe what happened in your own words? My chest rose and fell, slow but heavy. I handed her my license. She looked at me once, looked at the card once, and then tore it in half. No scan, no check, no procedure, just her judgment, louder than any evidence. I turned toward her, my voice shaking with anger and pain. You didn't see a CEO. You didn't see a man who built companies. You saw suspicion dressed in my skin. The room went still. A few throats cleared. A cough echoed. Melissa stammered. That's not... I didn't mean... I cut her off. Intent doesn't erase impact. You tore through more than plastic. You tore through dignity. And the worst part? Everyone watched and let it happen. The chairperson's eyes narrowed. Ms. Green, were you trained to destroy IDs on suspicion alone? Melissa hesitated. No, but I... So you broke protocol. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Yes, the lawyer struck again. And you accused him publicly of fraud. She nodded, barely audible. Yes. The silence after her confession was unbearable. I could feel the shame thick in the air, pressing against every wall. I leaned forward, my voice soft but cutting. You never saw me as human, did you? Her eyes glistened. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The chairperson's gavel hit the block. Enough! But it wasn't enough for me. I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. The damage doesn't end with silence. It echoes in every room I walk into, in every doubt whispered after I leave. Melissa dropped her head into her hands. For the first time, her smirk was gone, replaced by cracks too deep to hide. The lawyer gathered his notes. No further questions. The hearing adjourned, but the silence that followed wasn't relief. It was shame, heavy and suffocating. Rose steadying my breath, my voice barely more than a whisper. Now the world knows. She judged me on sight, and the whole room felt it. And for once, no one dared to deny it. The walls of the back office pressed close around me, stale air clinging like guilt itself. Melissa sat hunched in the chair across from me, her hands twisting into knots, mascara streaking down her cheeks. She couldn't meet my eyes. Her voice cracked, trembling through the silence. I never meant... I cut her off, my chest tight, my words sharp as glass. You never saw me as human. Her breath hitched. Tears spilled, dripping onto her trembling fingers. I see it now. I leaned forward, my fists clenched on the desk between us. My voice dropped, low and heavy. Now? After the world dragged your judgment into the light? After your name trended alongside my humiliation? You see me now because you can't escape the mirror. Her shoulders shook. I thought I was protecting the bank. I thought... I slammed my hand against the desk, the sound cracking through her excuses. No, you weren't protecting anyone. You were protecting your comfort, your instinct, the lie you were raised with, that someone like me couldn't possibly hold power without stealing it. She buried her face in her hands, her voice muffled, breaking apart. I was wrong. The words echoed, thin, desperate. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. Wrong doesn't stitch my license back together. Wrong doesn't erase the whispers, the laughter, the silence of every coward in that lobby. Her eyes finally lifted to mine, red and swollen. "What do you want from me?" I stared into her, steady, unblinking. "I want you to live with what you did. Every time you see a black man in a suit, I want you to remember the day you tried to strip me of mine. Every time you hand back an ID, I want your fingers to tremble with the memory of tearing mine apart." She gasped, covering her mouth. "I can't." "You will." My voice hardened. "Because that's the justice you can't escape. The one you carry in silence long after the world forgets." Her sobs filled the room, broken, raw. For the first time, she was the one silenced, her voice drowned by the weight of her own collapse. I stood, pushing my chair back slowly, my hands steady now. I looked down at her trembling frame, not with pity, not with forgiveness, but with clarity. "You wanted to strip me down to nothing," I whispered. "But you're the one undone, and I don't need to forgive you for the world to see it." She whimpered. "I see you now." I turned for the door, my hand on the handle, my voice firm, final. "Too late." The door shut behind me, her sobs muffled into silence. And for the first time since the shred of plastic split my dignity in two, I felt whole. Not because she broke, but because I didn't. The cameras flashed, their lights burning hotter than any sun. But my voice stayed calm, steady. I stood before the podium, reporters leaning forward, microphones pointed at my mouth like weapons waiting to fire. I drew in a slow breath, let the silence hang long enough for the weight to settle. Then I spoke. "This isn't revenge. It's accountability. Their comfort ends where our dignity begins." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I held my ground, the words flowing like iron from my chest. "My company has withdrawn every cent, every investment, every partnership from this bank. Effective immediately. We no longer trust institutions that shred identities instead of honoring them." Hands shot up, voices clamored. "Mr. Cole, is this personal retaliation?" I leaned toward the microphones, my tone measured, unshaken. Retaliation implies impulse. This is resolve. When a branch becomes a stage for humiliation, it forfeits the right to call itself a place of trust. Reggie stood behind me, his hand gripping my shoulder, steadying me. I felt his strength through the pressure. Another reporter shouted, "What about the employees? Innocent staff will lose their jobs if this branch shuts down." The question cut sharp, but I didn't flinch. Innocence is silence when someone is torn apart in front of you. Every voice in that lobby had the chance to stand, to say something. They chose comfort. Comfort is not innocence. The crowd went quiet. I scanned the room, eyes locking on camera lenses, knowing the world was listening beyond these walls. We are done asking politely for dignity. We are done waiting for apologies, wrapped in excuses. Today, we show them what silence costs. A man at the front, older, his voice trembling, asked, "What do you want them to learn?" I let the question sit. My chest tightened. The memory of her smirk, the sound of plastic tearing, the silence of the lobby, each flash of humiliation seared through me. I want them to learn that dignity isn't negotiable, that my humanity is not up for debate, that when you strip a man of his identity, you risk losing your own standing. Gasps, pens scribbling, cameras clicking. I gripped the podium tighter, my knuckles pale. This branch will close its doors, not because I demanded it, but because they chose prejudice over protocol, silence over courage, and excuses over truth. I'm not tearing them down. They collapsed themselves. I'm just pulling the curtain back. Reggie muttered behind me, low enough for only me to hear. "You've done it, brother." You turned their silence into their sentence. The press shouted more questions, but I raised my hand, cutting through the noise. My voice was firm, final. We are not powerless. We are not invisible. Today proves it. I stepped back from the podium, my heart pounding like a drum, but my face calm, unshaken. Reporters surged forward, but I kept walking, Reggie at my side. The flashes followed, but for the first time they didn't feel like shackles. They felt like witnesses. And outside, as I pushed through the doors, I whispered to myself, poetic justice isn't loud, it's calm, and it always arrives. The branch sat in silence, windows dark, doors chained, a closed sign swaying gently in the wind. I stood across the street, hands in my pockets, staring at the place where my dignity had been torn in half. My voice broke the still air, quiet, but firm. One card destroyed, but in its place 1,000 voices rose. The words lingered, hanging heavy, and I let them settle into me. I closed my eyes and the sound came back, the sharp rip of plastic, the smirk curling her lips, the whispers spreading like cracks in glass. My stomach twisted, but this time, it didn't end with shame. It ended with resolve. I whispered to the empty street. That moment didn't bury me. It unearthed me. I remembered the faces, Reggie's fury, Marla's fear, the lawyer's cold precision, Melissa's trembling collapse, and above all, I remembered the silence of strangers who chose comfort over courage. I let out a slow breath. Their silence gave me strength. Their betrayal carved the path. My chest rose, steady now. I touched the replacement license in my wallet, fingers grazing the edges. A card, just plastic. But what it represented, that had changed forever. A voice echoed in my memory, mine from the podium. This isn't revenge. It's accountability. I nodded to myself, murmuring, and accountability is louder than any apology. The wind carried the faint sound of a shutter banging against glass. The emptiness of the branch was almost poetic, hollow, stripped, just like they had tried to leave me. I whispered, dignity isn't given. It's taken back. For the first time, I felt light, not because the fight was over, it never truly ends, but because I had carried it, spoken it, lived it without breaking. I looked up at the darkened sign, then turned to walk away, each step steady, grounded. My voice, low but certain, carried into the night. They tried to erase me with silence. I answered with sound, and I'll never be quiet again.